If you're somebody who struggles with the Bible because it just doesn't seem to match up with modern science, this video is for you. We're going to walk through part of the Genesis 1 creation story. Maybe you've been told that you have to read this literally and that everything in our universe was created in 7 literal days. In the past, some Christians and pastors had told me that there is no way to read the creation story except literally. This is actually a more important issue than it seems. To people who are skeptical or struggling in their faith, this is a critical issue because if the Bible appears to be in opposition to modern science, they feel like science has disproven the Bible. What if I told you there was a little bit more wiggle room in this issue than we've been told? What if I told you there are some clues in the text that explained that we can actually take a metaphoric interpretation of this chapter? I'm going to walk you through a couple things and then we'll talk about how to actually read this chapter. So you don't have to throw out your belief in science to believe what's in the Bible. Let's take a look. Okay, what you're looking at here is the English Standard Version of the Bible. This is Genesis chapter 1, and we're going to focus on verse 1 because there's something really interesting here that might give us a clue that maybe the creation period took longer than is traditionally held. Tradition teaches that there were 7 days of creation. On each day, God created something different until the 7th day when he rested. There's a big debate over whether or not the word day should be interpreted as a literal day, 24 hours, or if it was a longer period of time, like an era or an age. I'm going to get to that in the next video when we look at the original Hebrew definitions of that word, which would be very interesting. But for now, I just want to show you something in verse 1. It's traditionally held that verse 1 describes day 1 of creation. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now, the reason they believe that's on day 1 is because it goes on to say, the earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. And God said, let there be light, and there was light. And God saw that the light was good, and God separated the light from darkness. God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. If you are an English reader, verse 1, all the way down to that verse about, and there was evening, and there was morning, the first day, that all seems like one big long thought. That all seems like that is day 1 of the creation story. But guess what? Verse 1, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That might actually be a separate thought at a different time. And the clue is right here. There's a little dot here on my screen at the end of verse 1. In Hebrew, there's a word there, and they did not translate that into English in this version of the Bible. In the NIV version, they put, now the earth was without form and void. In Hebrew, the word that they translated to now in English, there's a word there that signals the beginning of a sequence. So, verse 2 is actually probably the start of the 7 days of creation. And in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Well, that was some time prior. What it means is the heavens and the earth might have just been sitting there for a long time before God started shaping the earth. We don't know how old the universe is. We have no idea. There's a lot of ambiguity here. So if you're someone who's been wrestling with the science and thinking, the universe seems so much older than it's presented in the Bible, well, maybe we've just been reading the Bible wrong. Now, part of the reason I learned for why people don't know about this, I'm in a theology class with Dr. Michael Heiser, and he explained that for a long time, the original Hebrew language here was lost in the West. Well, now scholars can read these things, and we have access to the Dead Sea Scrolls and all these different documents, and we know the Hebrew language and can study it. But the early church fathers, not a lot of them knew Hebrew. So a tradition could have developed, not realizing that there was a break there that would tell you verse 1 is a separate thought from the 7 days of creation. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth might be its own separate thought. Now we can make the case, according to the Bible, that the universe might be old and it might match up with science. So if you're a skeptic, if you're someone who is skeptical like I was, I hope this will give you hope and expand your options a little. The bottom line is this. The Bible is way more complicated than anybody realizes, even the Christian. It takes study. So I think if you're wrestling with this issue, dedicate some time to searching for answers. You actually don't have to take a stance on this issue. One thing that you can always do is ask this. If you don't know, ask yourself, what is the main spiritual point of this chapter? What is the main thing the author was trying to tell me about me and God? Because if you're reading Genesis chapter 1 and you do that, you don't have to take a decision on whether or not this is literal or metaphoric. You don't have to take a stance on whether or not the earth is 6,000 years old or 4.6 or 4.8 billion years old. You just don't even have to decide that stuff. All you have to do is think, what is this chapter saying about my relationship with God, who God is, who I am? That's something you can do even if you know nothing about the original language or the science. In the next video, we're going to look at the word day and see what that meant in the Hebrew language, because there are actually 3 possible definitions in Hebrew for the word day. So the 7 days of creation, were those literal 24-hour periods, or is there another option? We will find out in the next video on what does the word day mean in Genesis 1 and 2. Like and subscribe to this channel if you found this video helpful. I'm going to try to help walk you through some of these difficult scriptures in the future. So maybe I'll see you again soon.